Hello, folks, and welcome to the Friend or Foe Lounge. I am your friendly neighborhood shoutcaster, Sharogen, and I've got two guests joining me on the lounge today. We're just going to be talking about Mythic and Heroic League, which have both been getting really, really spicy. We've got a bye week for Heroic coming up here shortly, but I'm going to go ahead, let the guests introduce themselves. So let's go ahead. Oriri, you kick us off.
Hello, I'm Oriri. I am the support for AW, as most people are probably aware of.
Hi, I'm Jafy. I'm a top laner for Team A and TDE.
Team A and TDE. Okay, so just how you guys doing? How y'all feeling right now? Like, obviously, we've got the Heroic bye week coming up, which I think for at least Jaffe, that doesn't really mean much because you're still going to be playing in the Mythic games next week. But that does mean that it's going to be a chance to kind of relax, take a little bit of a break, a little bit of a breather from this insanely long season, which is just, it's something that I think a lot of folks, when they join up with Friend or Foe, if they're not familiar with it, are not exactly used to. Mm-hmm. How are you feeling going into that week?
I feel pretty well. I got a lot of important games this week that I have to watch and be ready for, but yeah, feel pretty good.
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I usually don't like break weeks because then like after I feel kind of rusty.
Yeah.
But breaks are always good. I mean, like after the break, it's best of 5. So I feel like the breaks are good, but also, you know, kind of don't like it. But.
It's bad and good.
Yeah, it's got its little bit of good and bads going into it. So, you know, let's just go ahead.
Is needed.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Like after a while, like your mental stress just starts to become. It's one of those things. Like it's an endurance race. You got to make sure that you're good for that. It's not just a sprint.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead and just kind of kick it off with current standings as it stands right now. We've got in the tree we're going to start with Heroic.
Okay.
I didn't specify that ahead of time. We've got in the trees sitting at the top, nice and pretty, but they're like basically tied up with really late signups. So RLS showcasing really, really strong right now. Mm-hmm. AW is right behind them. You're about 2 games off from taking that top spot, but going into playoffs, it's not a bad spot to be sitting. Mm-hmm. Then you've got A right behind you. Or like I love doing the bird sound. I'm sorry. I like doing the bird call. I'm sorry, Jaffe. But we've got PTP, Team Washed, Wet Team, and then Cloud9 sitting at the bottom of the standings. Unfortunately, I was so hyped for them, and I'm happy to see them like trucking along and powering through this. Like every single game they're in, I always feel like they're about to pull out that win.
Yeah.
And so now it's definitely feels like a situation of whoever loses to them is going to have kind of an albatross hanging around their neck.
Mm-hmm. We can start with
just kind of give me your take on like how you think these teams are holding up, how you think things are in the standings, and kind of where you think they're going to be after this bye week. Do you think that's going to affect any of them kind of drastically?
I think almost every game this week upcoming is important to standings. It's actually because we have 4 teams that are within 2 games of each other, and then you have the top 4, which are also like within 4 games of each other. Obviously, that's a little more, but with AW and the Burbs playing against each other, it makes it a little bit harder for AW to get second place. But yeah, I think I have the teams like separated into tiers currently, like where like they're like on the same level per se. I have tier 1 being Int and RLS. I think Int's on a downward slope. They've lost once a week, past 2 weeks, I believe. And then I have AW, the Art of War Esports, my team. We're right below them. Then I have tier 3 being Wash, the Burbs, and PTP. I think PTP has showed a lot of improvement over the season. And same with A and Wash. They've all showed improvement. With Wash, it I think is a little sketchy with the at least in laning phase, sketchy with Wednesday, but he's been performing well in team fights and stuff like that. And then I have Wet being tier 4, and then C9 is tier 5. Or that's my like tier list for the teams.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then Jafy, like just hopping right in. Feel free to like hop in at any point. Is that kind of like how you're reading things as well?
Yeah. I was just like looking at the standings, and Oriri kind of has it spot on. And the standings are, they're not going to shift too much since there's only 2 games left.
Yeah.
But I mean, like the first 2 slots are pretty much INT or RLS, and then like Oriri's team and my team, like my team could be third, but that kind of has to be like all has to lose both games.
Yeah,
so it's
you guys
possible
have to win both.
like we could switch slots, but like most likely we're both in the 3rd and 4th slots. And then it's just the question is who's gonna be 7th. Like Wet could is likely to be 7th, but also Wash could be 7th. It just depends on like if C9 wins or if Wash
I think
loses.
C9's a dark horse this week because a lot of teams are going to underestimate them and probably take it as like an off game, right? And then C9 has a chance to actually get a win, especially with, I think they face A and Wet, which if Wet loses to C9, they're out of playoffs. So the playoffs will be confirmed, like who are in playoffs. And then the next 3 teams are like within 1 game of each other. So that those are going to mix up like who's going to face each other between those 3. Then all has a chance of being placed second with RLS losing to Int, and then all beating RLS on Friday. And then Int's confirmed top 2, so they may take it as like an off week and just chill. So I am really worried about that RLS Int game. Because that is like, if we get bye week, that would be pretty nice for us at least. But yeah, that's pretty much, I think that's like all the like big things for me at least, but most of it's focused on my team obviously.
Anyone have any insight on what's going on with INT?
I think it's just the top lane change. Like before, like the first like 7 games, because that was pretty much it. It was like the first 7 games were with Fish McGish. And Fish McGish matches Bo Explode's like super aggressive play style. And even though he might int a game or 2 or whatever, but it's the fact that they match like aggressiveness and are able to make plays throughout the entire game that with each other. And I feel like that's the big difference with Broccoli and Evolved Noob. They tend to play a little more passive. So that's pretty much what I have, and that's where it allows teams to actually like, they get breathing room pretty much.
Yeah, I played both against Fish McGish and Broccoli up in the top lane. And I mean, it was a lot easier the second round. Broccoli was top, and he even had counter pick, but I like wrecked him pretty hard. But yeah, Fish McGish, I would say he was tougher in the top lane, and I guess when they changed the roster, it kind of made them a bit weaker.
Yeah, I think they play a little more safe. They don't make as much mistakes, but they don't let the teams like breathe. Like if you look at like, I'm going to use Aw versus Int. Like the first time Aw played against Int, like we made 1 mistake and then they ran it down our throat. The second game, they didn't even get an early lead. We just lost a team fight around Dragon, but it gave us chance to make a play, make opportunities happen, opportunities happen and stuff like that. So I think that's the big thing, is the opportunity and aggressiveness that they had before, they don't take as much anymore. I don't know if that's just Fish McGish or that's just like how they play as a team, but obviously it's an outside perspective. So
it's kind of interesting watching the 2 leagues going at it. Jaffe, I was wondering, can you give us like what's your insight kind of like in the nature of the 2 different leagues? Do they feel very similar? Because I know this season it seems like both leagues are very explosive, both the Mythic and the Heroic League. While in the past it's been Mythic always felt kind of slower I guess is a good way to describe it, because the teams were just that much more in each other's heads, and I guess playing the more chess macro shadow game in a way. Have you noticed that this season, or is it a little bit different?
Yeah. So I do notice a little difference in both leagues. Like, so in Heroic, personally, I feel like I could do whatever I want up in the top lane. Like, I could play whatever champion I want and like just do Jafy things. In Mythic, I have to be more careful about stuff because it feels a bit more organized. Like, teams are more, they play together, and you can really tell. So yeah, like playing with TDE, I tend to not do so many Jafy things, and I kind of play with the team, so I kind of have to be careful of my tendencies.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. No, it's just I was kind of curious to hear them. Glad to hear things that are a little bit less crazy in the Mythic League, kind of a thing.
I think it's just as crazy from watching from an outside perspective.
You know, from an outside perspective, it definitely looks that way.
So I've played a few games in Mythic. I played 3, and every time I play, I played on Eek, so they're a little more. They're very similar to like. Ow! Sorry, my cat bit me.
Doesn't agree with your assessment.
He does not agree with my assessment.
He's like, stop talking shit, Oriri.
Eek, like when I played on Eek, like everything just felt a little not as organized in Awe, but I think Awe plays a little more organized than most teams in Heroic. I think the top 3 teams actually relatively play a lot of they're relatively organized, whereas the bottom teams feel a little more sporadic, but they make plays and stuff like that. So, do you?
Yeah. So was there any particular game that stood out to you like this past week? Because so for me, it's like I've been out for a while.
For Heroic?
Yeah, for Heroic. Yeah. So I've been out for a while for a little bit of vacation time to see family and whatnot. But one other thing I was told was that the INT versus PTP game was probably the best game of the season.
It was one of the best games of the season. I 100% agree. That game was actually so close, and I was rooting for PTP all the way. Because it did give us more of a chance to fucking get second place. But yeah, that game was actually crazy. That was definitely a top 3 game in the top 2 game in the entire season of Heroic.
What about you, Jaffe? Was there any particular game that kind of like stood out to you?
I'd have to look back, but the last couple weeks, it felt like a breeze. There was that one game.
It could be your own game too. It could be like, hey, maybe it was the which one was it that y'all played most recently?
We played against RLS. That was a tough game.
That game was also
RLS is a really good team.
Yeah.
But there's that one game that I was disappointed that they had a DC. I forget which team it was. I think it was Wash.
Mm-hmm.
Because I actually got Gangplank. Like Gangplank games are like so fun.
I think it was
like,
Wet.
Oh, it's Wet.
Wet
yeah,
and Wash.
It was Wet.
Yeah, Wet was the game that you had right before.
Yeah. Because it was against you guys, right? Ow.
Yeah, that's once week and his crew.
Yeah. That game was just very unfortunate.
No, it was Wash.
It was Wash.
Was it?
Yeah.
I thought it was day 1. Ow. Did they?
Yeah.
Wait,
because I'm looking at the draft. I got Gangplank last pick on the 16th, Friday.
Oh, that was week 5.
Yeah.
That wasn't last week.
But I just mean in general. It doesn't have to have been last week. I'm just saying that for me, I heard INT versus PTP was the greatest game ever, and I have to agree with what I saw of it, and it was pretty intense.
I think that is probably the best game. It was pretty shocking in general too. Like PTP played out of their mind.
Right. But Jaffe, back to that Awe versus Wash game.
Yeah. So I was really looking forward to that game because I got Gangplank. But then when their players disconnected, we gave them our our pause timer for him to come back, but I mean, it ended up being a 45.
Mm-hmm.
It was a free win, but like I kind of don't like that. It doesn't feel right.
Mhm.
I getcha. All right. Well, looking at the next set of games we've got before we go into this bye week, let's see, we've got you two going up against each other. We can talk about that here in a second.
Mhm.
And then we've got AWE versus RLS and A versus C9. Do you think you're gonna be giving up that first win to C9, Jaffe?
Not first win, but I think we're gonna give them Bard, or we're gonna leave Bard open.
Ooh, we're finally gonna get to see the Bard.
Yeah, I feel bad for like banning it every game. Like,
Yeah.
you gotta have some fun in this tournament. So
I mean, every
usually,
team bans Renata against me. Like, stop banning Renata then. Don't ban Renata.
yeah. But I think
You're like,
usually, yeah, no, you're not getting Renata. But like usually around like the last week of standings don't really matter. Like that's where personally, that's where I like to have fun and do like a troll pick.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's how you feel about that. And then how does Art of War feel about going up against RLS?
So there's only one way I care about that game is if RLS loses to Int. That's the only way I care about that game. Otherwise, it's probably just gonna be like we're gonna be obviously like trying to win and stuff like that, but it'll be a little more fun and stuff like that. But yeah, so if we're talking like if we're both trying, I think both teams. I think RLS is a really good team. I think Art of War is a really good team, obviously. But I can't predict that game. The first time we played against them, it looked like I felt like we were in the head the entire game, until that 15-minute mark where we paused and did a goofy thing. Yeah. So I don't know. That game, if we're talking like everyone's playing extremely well and stuff like that, it's gonna be I think it's gonna be a really good game.
Okay, I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to see any upsets for the teams going into playoffs?
Like, are you meaning like in playoffs or this final week?
So final week, I think the situation is if Wash loses 2 of their games and Wet wins 2 of their games, they're going in, aren't they?
Yeah, but Wet faces PTP. And then they also face C9, so they have a chance to be upset game day 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then day 2 they face a slightly, my personal opinion, slightly better team than them. So I think they have a rough week if they want to make playoffs. They still can because they can win. If they win one game, do they have the tiebreaker over them, over Wash?
So they'll have a tiebreaker if Wash loses 1 and wins 1.
Okay, so they would have to do a tiebreaker because let's see if Wash beat them the first time too. I'm trying to
remember how it plays out
Wash,
as well.
Wet Wash. So Wet won the first time. They lost the second time, so they are 1-1 together. And then it goes by, I think by the rule book, it's game time. And I think Wet loses that if it goes by that ruling. Because obviously we know Wet has had like 5 fucking 45-minute games.
Yeah.
So
they've been a little long. They've been a little long,
yeah. And so that there's that portion, and then the middle 3, PTP, A, and Wash. Obviously, if they win one game, all those 3 win one game, they make playoffs. So then the top 6 will be confirmed. And then I said already about how the top 3, if there's the changes that can happen there. But yeah, I think Heroic has been extremely fun this season, and the teams are way closer. At least the middle of the the top pack of the teams are way closer to the bottom pack, the middle and bottom pack than previous seasons.
Agreed.
I'm glad Yubi's gone. Thank you.
All right, and then Jaffe, how about you?
I think Wet has a better chance of hitting playoffs than Wash, even though Wash has one win over them.
True.
Just because Wash faces INT on Friday, and
So
the favors are gonna be in INTs.
I think they're gonna troll that game in because they even said like in general and in trash talks before, if they have confirmed top 2, they're gonna start trolling. So or picking like off meta picks like Blitzcrank jungle.
Potentially, but
even then, like INT is still strong. Like I'm pretty sure they can win with Blitzcrank jungle. Like they're madmen. So yeah, I think that it's very close for Wet to hit playoffs still, and I think PTP has a good shot. Like it's hard for them to lose their spot. I think it's just between Wash or Wet, just because of the next 2 matchups.
Yeah, I agree with that. Those 2 teams are going to be, one of them is going to be the one knocked out.
Yep. All right. So that kind of wraps it up for Heroic.
Yep.
And now let's kind of go ahead and hop over to Mythic. Kind of the basic rundown here. Same thing. Major difference we kind of want to bring up, though, is the fact that Rex is not going to be continuing. They have withdrawn from the tournament for the rest of the season. So that means that their final record is 3-11, because those will all be considered forfeits, which means Fat Pikachu has 2 wins and 7 losses. So they're finally on the leaderboard. Just quick hot take. Do you guys think that that's going to affect the standings too much? Do you feel like maybe the top tier teams, are they feeling a little less pressure now that Rex is gone? Or is this going to allow Fat Pikachu to kind of have that leg up to kind of make a push for playoffs?
I personally think it helps Fat Pikachu relatively a lot. Just because it gives them a chance to, like, it gives them +2, because they're one of the few teams they're the only team that got a win, like besides the teams that actually beat Rex. They were 3-3 when they elected to drop out. So it does help, I think, Fat Pikachu the most out of all the teams, but it does relieve a little bit of pressure for the top. It leaves a little bit of pressure for all the teams that they don't have to face Rex in a second time.
With Rex withdrawn, I think it just answers the question of who else would have been the bottom 2.
Yeah.
Because it already looked like Fat Pikachu wasn't gonna make it to playoffs so far. It was just a question of, okay, who else isn't gonna make it, and they just answered it. It's like we're not making it.
Yeah.
Because all the teams are super close, except Fat Pikachu. Like, look at the standings. Like, everyone is like one win away from the team above. So competition is super close. I think it just answered, who's going to playoffs or who's not going to playoffs.
Yeah.
Okay. So you think that BBZ and Eek are probably feeling a little less stressed? And Scaling Copium, I guess, would fall into that category too, because of how close they all are.
Yeah, I would say that whoever lost to Rex has a little bit less pressure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's just hop right into this then, talking about the teams. Like I said, so how do you think the top tier teams are feeling? Like, how do you think how's TDE feeling going into this? Like, based off the few matches that you've had so far, got yourselves quite a few wins under your belt, got a couple of losses. Is there anything kind of like standing out to you, kind of continuing into this, about as we're getting closer and closer to that second half of the split?
TD is good. I feel like we are, we're a strong team, and we've already faced every team, and we feel good about it, like where we are and how we're doing. We just got to keep it up. Like, we're top 3, and I mean, like we can't go easy because like the competition is super close. Like any team can beat us at any time. So we just gotta play our best game. Yeah, I feel like any team could take the #1 spot at any point.
And from an outsider's perspective, Oriri, how does that assessment sound to you on your end?
I mean, I pretty much agree. I kind of want BBZ to perform a little bit better, but they definitely, from week 1 to now, from week 1 to now, they've looked way more of a team than just 5 randoms. That's pretty much all I got for Mythic. I think the records stand for itself. I think Fat Pikachu just doesn't show as much coordinated team fight, but they've been definitely playing better. Eek is the Kongzi show, and teams have finally like started abusing that. So it's no longer the Kongzi show. Someone else is gonna have to step up. I hope it's Arena Thunder. I already talked about BBC scaling Copium. The longer the season goes, the better they're gonna be, of course. Then I think UB, TD, and SLR are pretty much on the same tier as of right now.
Okay.
That's pretty much all I got for Mythic.
That's all you got for Mythic? All right. Well, okay, so basically what we're saying is that with Rex being gone, then it's not changing things too drastically, essentially.
No. I think it helps Fat Pikachu the most, though.
Yeah. I think it does, and I do think that going into this, they have a potential to come back, because like I said, this is still only the first half of the Mythic season, so it's still got quite a ways to go. Plenty of time for them to come together with something and basically kind of surprise everybody, which I'm kind of excited for. I love comeback stories, and it's great for ratings. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think it's absolutely fantastic for like from a storyline perspective. Like, that's what you want to see. And the Fat Pikachu is probably the best Pikachu. Just putting that out there.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So with Mythic going in, I honestly, so BBZ has kind of been one of those teams. I just kind of want to talk about this for a little bit, where it's been a little surprising. BBZ and UB have both. I kind of expected more from them out of this season. Do you think that that's because they're just running into more obstacles? Like the quality of the teams in Mythic are just that much stronger?
I think UB is right where they need to be, personally. I think they're still a really good team, but obviously, I think now they're in the league that they should be. From after year 1, I thought season 3, I thought they should be in Mythic, but obviously the Mythic dropped and they still qualified for Heroic, so they joined Heroic. So I think UB's where they need to be, and then BBZ. I think they underperformed the first 2 weeks, and then the second 2 weeks they've played incredibly well. So.
All right, so I think that's. What about you, Jaffe?
Yeah, I kind of agree with what Oriri said. Like a good team like UB, they've been wrecking the Heroic League. And I think that's just because the competition for them wasn't, it wasn't hard for them to win games.
Yeah.
And now that they have equal competition, they're losing games, they're winning a bunch, but their standing, their scores are kind of where it needs to be.
Yep. I think SLR has been playing out of their mind. They have currently 4 players on top of the leaderboard. 1 through 4 is all SLR, and then Fang is 10th. So the fact that there's so many teams in that in top 10 just shows how strong they are currently. They might even be they might even have their own separate tier. I don't know as of right now. But yeah, I think they definitely overperforming for them what I expected.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so from my understanding, then it's like, yeah, everything's kind of hunky dory in Mythic League, and there's nothing too crazy going on there. I've been really excited. I think the games have been absolutely explosive this season, especially in comparison to previous seasons. I'm not entirely sure if that's.
I think it's meta too.
It might also be the meta. Like that was going to be another thing. Is like the meta's been shaken up a little bit this time through, so it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
As we've seen in previous seasons, like it's obviously not AD carry favored for sure. Seeing them getting absolutely wrecked by like an Aatrox top just coming in and wrecking face on the ADC doesn't even have a chance. Things like that is always I don't know how you would go about trying to quote unquote fix that, but
yeah,
we're not Riot's balance team. We can only offer speculation.
Yeah.
All right, but speaking of balancing, I guess we've got a little bit of extra time here. So Oriri, you brought up something kind of interesting, and Jaffe, I'd love to get your take on this. Certain skins, like not necessarily a ban list, but kind of like a restrict list, where players might reach out to the teams and be like, "Hey, do you mind not playing skin X against me?" Like the Vladimir C skin. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
Deep Sea Vladimir.
Deep Sea Vladimir.
I think that's
how
what it's
could I
called.
forget Deep Sea Vladimir?
Yeah.
What were you trying to get at with that?
So I know I wasn't expecting this to be like a thing, but I was thinking about it one day and I was like, because I've gotten really close to like UB and RLS and stuff like that, and some of them will have issues seeing certain like effects. Like the one that always comes to my mind is War Leader not being able to see Omega Squad Vigar, like any of the particle effects for any of the abilities. So like if they go into a tournament and they're playing against PTP and they pick Vigar, why give PTP an unfair advantage when they obviously it may not be malicious, they may not be maliciously doing it, but it's still a super unfair advantage. Like if you can't see Vigar Cage, which is one of his strongest abilities, how is RLS supposed to play around that kind of, I'm trying to make it a little more
way to call out War Leader, by the way. And tell people how to beat War Leader.
Yeah. I mean, you may never know. We might have to pick Omega Squad Vigar when we play them. But yeah, so that was, and I know there's multiple players that had the same issue. And when I made the suggestion, a lot of people downvoted, but a lot of people also were like, yeah, this could be a thing, and it may, like, it doesn't even have to be like an official like FoF
it's like
doing
a handshake thing.
Like it's I think that's where it has to come down to, is a handshake thing. So like I want every team to perform at their best, and if a cosmetic is affecting you playing at your best, that's kind of messed up in my opinion.
Any thoughts, Jaffe?
It's interesting because like before it was brought up, I never even thought of it being a thing. Like I never knew someone would have trouble seeing certain colors or particles for a skin. So it was definitely interesting when I first heard about it. I think it was Civillock who put it in the Discord, like green skins like Brand and Shyvana. I thought it was really interesting, and I thought like, oh, it'd be funny just to use that skin against him, but I don't think I would actually do that in a FoF game. So I think that kind of like I don't think a list would be
I think like if a team
followed, because like what if there's like a long list of skins, and like I don't think I would look through the list and make sure I'm not using a banned skin. Like that would be kind of like, out the way. So like I think before games, like, hey, are you gonna use this skin? Like, can you not? Like, I think that would be fine. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to that. Like, I don't mind what skin I use. I kind of don't care.
So if we did pick Vigar against RLS on Friday, and they were like, hey, please don't use Omega Squad Vigar. We can't see the particle effects. Like, can you not use it up? I mean, I would 100% ask whoever's playing Vanguard to definitely do it. But obviously, I think if you want a fair like a fair game, you do it. If not, it's whatever. It's your provocative or whatever. But I think it should be at least like a conversation between teams, like. Because obviously you're not gonna know like every single skin on the top of your head, like what skins you can't see or whatever. But if you do find a skin, you want to write down a list on a notepad or make a Google form for your team or whatever. Like I think that's an option for teams to help not even the playing field, but just so things don't become uneven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I think it's their prerogative, I think is the word you were looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with the amount of time there is between draft and champ lock-in and the games actually starting, I feel like there's plenty of time for someone to shoot you a message on Discord or something like that. So I guess the point we're trying to make here is if there's an issue like that, we shouldn't feel like the teams are afraid of saying something to each other. So I hope that kind of like promotes an air of cooperativity, I guess is a good way to describe it.
Friendly competitive environment. Friendly competitive environment.
Friendly competitive, because that's what we're all about here.
Yeah.
It's like I understand that there's some folks who are like they want to have fun, and for them winning is fun, losing is not fun. Like, and I get that, but at the same time, it's like everyone is here just to have a great time because we're all doing this because we love the game and love playing with each other. And I feel like you two, I want to say thank you for coming on to the lounge, because like this is something you don't have to do at all. Like I'm just like, hey, you mind coming on and talking about this thing that we all do in our free time for who knows who's actually listening?
To decrease your free time.
To decrease your free time? To do whatever? Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, I have fun recording this. Like, I just like talking to the teams, and I feel like this is probably where I get the most interaction with the community. So that's how I feel about the lounge. I enjoy it. I just enjoy doing the lounge.
Yeah, I do enjoy the lounge too.
Yeah. Well, before we kind of like close it out, was there anything FOF related y'all want to bring up? Because I know like there's always been a bunch of in-houses going on. Anything crazy happening in those that I missed?
I think sometimes like in-houses are like super random, which I like. Sometimes I miss it. I know some people kind of go in there, it's like, hey, does someone want to play ranked or play flex or ARAM? And I think that's really cool, and it keeps the community active.
Yeah. Would you rather like us do them on a more regular basis?
I think that if there was like a certain day and time, I think that would be cool. And then like, I think in-houses would be more kind of like people would look forward to those and kind of like put time away for that. But yeah, you've just given me a great idea for a way to start closing out this lounge. The FoF Lounge feature request segment. So I'll give you guys both a moment here to think. Is there Jafy, that doesn't have to be your feature request. It can be, but is there anything that you want to put into the feature requests section so that we can kind of like get the community aware of it and maybe do something about it?
Yeah. So there was one thing I wanted to do this off season, right? I wanted to do like a Hall of Fame for FOF. Like, if you're a player who hasn't played in the past 3 or 4 seasons or whatever, so basically season 1 and season 2, you can get elected into the Hall of Fame based off your performance in those seasons or whatever. And you can also put like records, like fastest game, top 3 fastest games, highest KDA in a game, stuff like that. I thought that would be really cool. I was going to actually after the season was over, I was going to ask to like make a committee and stuff like that for it, so we can decide who could be in the Hall of Fame. But obviously I don't know if that's going to become a thing, but yeah, that was one thing I wanted to do.
Okay. FoF Hall of Fame. Jaffe, anything in particular kind of pop into your head that you're like, man, I wish FoF did this?
Yeah, I think one thing just popped in my head. One thing I realized is that I don't really know a bunch of the staff. Like, I feel like there's more staff than I don't know than I know. So I think a good way for them to get like, like get known within the community is like have them draft teams. So it's like staff are captains, and then like we have the players as players for teams, and then like we do like a captain's draft or something where staff are captains.
Yeah, I like that.
And then staff can like duke it out in the background, like, oh, my team's better than your team, whatever.
Yeah, and make a separate trash talk called Staff Trash Talk, and we can watch staff like duke it out.
Talk trash about each other.
Yeah. Also, I want to see which ref has the highest win rate when reffing a game.
Oh, that too, yeah.
I know it's not me because I am X number 2 wins and X number of losses for however many games. I've only had 2 wins, 2 teams that have won.
Hey, let's go. Don't ref my game.
Actually, I take it back. It's been 3. It's been 3 because last week I had 2, or last set of games I refed, I had 2 wins. So it might be going up. Maybe. All right. Well, with that, I got nothing else I want to bring up, so I think it's good to close it out. Jaffe or Riri, thank you guys so much. If you got anything you want to say before we close it out, go right ahead.
Int, please crush RLS so I can get 2nd place. Thanks.
Beats tomorrow.
No, that can't happen. Otherwise, I can't get 2nd.
You heard it here first, folks. Don't even need to watch the games. The Burbs are gonna win. All right, with that, I'm gonna go ahead and close it out here. Okay, so just want to say thank you all so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. And I want to say thank you especially to our sponsors, Logitech Gaming, Adobe Creative Cloud, and the Academy of Art. We greatly appreciate all of the support you've shown us. And I want to say very special thanks to all of the staff who put in so much of their free time to actually creating all of this Render Foe content. It is absolutely fantastic what all of the work they do behind the scenes. And I want to say especially thank you to all of the players for Render Foe, because without you guys and gals and other pals, we would have absolutely no league whatsoever. So just thank you all so much, and we will see you on the Rift.